We are now on the top of one of the Testament days, and the Gemara wants to know what does this phrase Ben Chamson means. Apparently, he's a robber. He grabbed the portion of his friend of the lechem aponim, etc. Omar Rabba Bar Shilo Bar Shilo. My crow. What's the pasuk that indicates that Chamson is a thief? And the Gemara is going to quote a whole list of psukim. First, the pasuk in Tehillim that says, "Elokai paltenim yad rocham yad ma'avel vechometz." Hashem saved me from the hand of the Russia, from the palm of the robber. So you see the word chometz is a rob. Rav Amar Michacha. Rav has a pasuk in Yeshayahu and Navi when he gives musa to the people and tells them that they have to do tshuva, they have to practice justice and benevolence, and protect the victimized. And the victimized are called chamots because they're the victim of robbery, of theft. Limdu heitev dirshu mishpat ashru, support and protect chamots, he who is robbed. Ashru chamots, the alta ashru chometz. In other words, protect the chamutz, the one who is in lashon nifal robbed, and don't give support to the active robber. Rabbanon also shonach meis ba Shimon HaTzadik. Shimon HaTzadik already notified the people after 40 years serving as Kohen Gadol that he would die that year. Vishonazu who meis, he speaks about himself in third person. They asked him, how do you know? He said, whenever I entered into the Kodesh Kodashim, I am istameli zaken echad lavush levanim v'atuf levanim. I encountered an elderly man dressed in white, wrapped in a headgear that was white, and perhaps we should assume, again, Ayin Rashi, that this elderly gentleman represents the glory of Hashem, the Kvod HaShekhinah, the presence of God. And Shimon HaTzadik, every Yom Kippur had this nevuah, Baruch HaKodesh, a prophetic vision, that he saw someone who went in with him to the Kodesh Kodashim and exit with him. Now again, you might ask, well, halach is no one's allowed to go in with the Kohen Gadol into the Lifnai V'Lifnim. Even a malach is not allowed in. But perhaps we're not talking about a malach, we're just talking about a vision of the divine Shekhinah. Hayom, on this occasion, is Damili Zaken Echad Lavush Chorim V'Yatav Shchorim. He was wearing black. Nichnas Imi V'Lo Yotzim. He went in and he did not come out. And I understood that this was a sign, a hint, that it's a period of mourning of Avelus, which is represented by the color black. And the Avelus here is for Shimon HaTzadik. Achar regel cholosh yomim umeis. He got sick after Sukkot. He was ill for 7 days, and then he passed away. From that time on, the Kohanim felt that they were no longer worthy of reciting Birchas, of reciting the name of God within the Birchas Kohanim. When they were Mekayim the mitzvah Birchas Kohanim in the Mikdash, they, from now on, after the death of Shimon HaTzadik, they omitted the name. I shouldn't say omitted, but they didn't recite the name the way it should be recited. We learned to the Bryce 40 years before the Churban, during the period of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Lohaya Gorol Ola B'Yamin. For 40 years, they were unsuccessful, and the Gorol of Lashem never showed up in the right hand. V'loya Lashon Shel Tzurus Malvin. V'loya Ner Maravi Dolet. Now Now, what does it mean that the doors of the Heichal would open on their own? It's as if to invite the enemies to go into the Mikdash and destroy it. Achegar Bahen Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai speaks to the Dalsos and he castigates them. Omar Lo, he says to the doors. Not sure why it says Omar Lo. Omar Lo is he's talking not to the doors but to the Heichal, which is Lashon Zohar and Sigil. Heichal mipnei mata mavis atzmecha. Yeah, we know that the Mikdash is going to be destroyed, but it's still premature. We have another 40 years. So why are you terrifying yourself? Already opening yourself to the adversaries, the enemies. It's premature. Yodeani becha, I know regarding the Mikdash, Asofcha Osid Licharek. Franisnabi Alecha Zechariah ben Ido. We already have the prophecy concerning the destruction of the Mikdash by and the prophecy is by Zechariah ben Ido. And that's at the very beginning of Sefer Zechariah. Again, there's a question here about who his father was. In the Tanakh, it says that he was the son of Berechiel and the grandson of Edom. So the Gemara calls him the son of Edom. Now, what is this prophecy of Zechariah? Sach Levanon. Levanon is a reference to the Beis Hamikdash. Open Dlasecha, your doors, V'tochal Eish Barazecha, and the fire of the enemies will consume your cedars. So in this Nevuah, Zechariah prophesies that there will be a spontaneous, automatic opening of the doors of the Heichal, signifying the fiery destruction of the Mikdash. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai rebuked the Delasos for opening on their own prematurely 40 years before the Churban HaBayis. And we have a principle of being docha peronios. We delay misfortune. Why is the Mikdash called Levanon? And the answer is Shemal bin Avonoseim Shel Yisrael. That the etymological root of the word Levanon is Lavan, which means that God through the Mikdash whitens and atones for the sins of Israel. Omar Rav Sutra Bar Tuvia, Lama Nikra Shmo Ya'ar. We find a pasuk in Malachim that calls the Beis Hamikdash a forest. It's a base Yar Halvanon. What's the significance of calling it a Yar? Lo Malacha Ma Yar Malavlev. Just like a forest blooms. Af Beis Hamikdash Malavlev. Where does the Beis Hamikdash bloom? As if to say it gives fruits. Yes, I'll tell you why. The Yoma Rav Hoshaya, B'shah Shabbat Shalom Beis Hamikdash, not about Kol Minei Megadim Shel Zav. Shlomo Melech built the first Mikdash and he planted miraculous, spectacular trees that gave fruit. But what was the fruit? The fruit was gold. Vayimotziim Peros Kuzmaneim. And just like other trees would produce in its time, depending on the agricultural season, they did as well. And the wind would blow them, these golden fruits would fall. Shenemar Yirash Kalvanon period. The fruit will rustle like that of the Levanon. The Kohanim would pick up these fruits that were made of gold and they would sell them on the market, and that's how they supported themselves. They had no work. They did not get paid any wages, but this is how they were able to support themselves. When the idolaters, our enemies, entered into the Beis Hamikdash, the Heichal, Yovshu, the trees dried up. Shenemar, as the pasuk says in Tanakh, in Nahum, it says, Uperach Levanon Lal was devastated. This flower of Levanon was devastated. But here's the good news and the message of faith and optimism. At the end of days, at the time of the redemption, God will restore those trees that produce golden fruit. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, and now the Gemara quotes a pasuk in Yeshayahu Navi that speaks of Eretz Yisrael getting back on its feet at the end of days. Orach tifrach v'sagel af gilas v'ranein, and kvod halavanon nitan lo. It will blossom abundantly, will rejoice, even with joyousness and glad song. The glory of Levanon has been given her, restored to her today. The son of the Mishnah says, Al Shnei Seir, the two lots were placed, one on each goat, one Lashem and one Lazazah. We learned in the Brisa, Eser Pa'amim Maskir Kohen Gadol Es Hashem Bo Bayom. During the course of Yom Kippur, in the Viduis, there were 3 Viduis, and there was also the Lashem Chatos when he picked up the Gorol. So we have 10 recitations of the name, the holy name of Hashem. Shlosha b'vidu Rishon, Shlosha b'vidu Shenu, Shlosha b'Sara Mishtaleh. So we have here 3, 3, and 3. 3 in the first vidui, 3 in the second vidui, and 3 on the vidui over the Sar Amishtaleh, totaling 9. And the 10th was Echad B'Gorolos, when he picked up the Gorol Hashem. Omar Hashem v'nishma kol biri. Now, the Bryce establishes that with each vidui, the Kohen Gadol would mention the name of Hashem thrice. And the first vidui, which was vidui number 1 on Paro Shel Kohen Gadol, and that's the par lechatos. He's going to recite a second vidui on the same par, but the first vidui, he says on Hashem chatosi, etc., and then he says on Hashem kaperna. In any event, 3 times he mentions the name of Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei, as it's written. In the second vidui, again over his par, he recites the name of Hashem 3 times. This we'll get to in the next mission. The only difference, by the way, between the first vidui and the second is that in the second one, the vidui, the Kohen Gadol, encompasses also the sins of Kohen. In any event, we get to the third vidui, that's Al Shem Kol Yisrael, and that is the vidui over the Sa'ir HaMishtaleach. And once again, the vidui contains the name of Hashem 3 times. And there was a great miracle that when the Kohen Gadol would mention the name of Hashem, then his voice projected and it could be heard as far as Yericho. Now there are 10 parsos from Yerushalayim to Yericho, and it seems that a parsa is approximately 4 times 2,000 or 2,000 amos, which would make it 8,000 amos. And if you multiply that, as we'll soon see, 10 parsos, it gives you 80,000 amos, which is a little bit more than 20 miles. So this was an amazing miracle. 80,000 amos. Vitzir, dalsos ha'hechol, and the noise of the hinges of the doors of the Beis Hamikdash, the Hechol, when they were open, nishma, they can be heard. B'shmone tchume Shabbos. So Shabbos is 2,000 amos. Multiply that by 8, and you get 16,000 amos. Izim shebiricho. If you had goats as far away from Yerushalayim as Yericho, misachos mereach haktoros. The goats would sneeze from the fragrance of the ketores, which was 10 parcels away in Yerushalayim. Noshim shebichoin and tzvikulis basem. The women in Yericho didn't have to bother with perfume because mereach haktoros, the fragrance of the Torres in the face of Mikdash 10 parcels away penetrated into their body, perfumed them. There was no need to add any perfume. In Yerushalayim itself, the intensity of the fragrance of the Ketores was such that the Kala did not need to perfume herself in any way. Again, in Yericho, it doesn't say anything about the Kalos. Apparently, Yericho, at a distance of 10 parcels to Yerushalayim, the Kalos would still have to add some element to perfume. Omar Abelazar ben Digloi, Izim Hayuli al Abba Behare Michvar. My father had goats all the way in the mountains of Michvar in Gilad. Ashtos, Mereach Haktoros, they would sneeze from the smell of the incense. Omar Chivar Oven, Omar Yoshua ben Karcha. Sachli Zaken Echad. One of the elderly men told me, Achas Alachti L'Shilo. I went all the way to Shiloh. The Rachti Reach Torres mi ben Koslel. Imagine the walls of Shiloh, and this is 1,000 years before Abchir, had absorbed the smell of the incense of the Torres into its walls. And 1,000 years later, you can still smell the Torres in the walls of Shiloh. Omer Rav Yana. Alias Gorol mitov Kalfi Me'akeves Hanocha Eina Ma'akeves. Rav Yochanan Amar Af Aliyah Eina Ma'akeves. Rav Yanai says that what's essential is that the Kohen Gadol and also the Skan, according to one man, would have to lift up the lots from this Kalfi, from this box, and that's essential in order to designate each Sa'ir, one Lashem and one Lazaz. But the other part of this Avoda, namely placing the lotteries on top of the two heads of the two goats, effectively, that was not critical. And the drawing of the lots would determine which goat was Lashem, which Lazazel, that was critical. But the Hanocha, once you've already designated, is not critical. Rabbi Yochanan goes a step further. He says even lifting up the Gorolos is not essential. And that would mean that ultimately it was the Kohen Gadol who would declare which was Lashem, which was Lazazel. And without Gorolos, it means that the power and the authority to designate was in the hands of the Kohen Gadol. That's according to Rabbi Yochanan. Now the Gemara is going to introduce a machlokas here between two Tanoim, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia. This machlokas is really a sugya later on at Daf Samach, and they disagree with regard to the question of Shalo Kis Sidron. If the Kohen Gadol implements the avoda, but he deviates from the sequence of the avoda. And Rabbi Nechemia holds that it is absolutely critical that all the avodos be performed. I mean, those avodos that are and required to be performed by the Kohen Gadol when he's wearing his big day lavon. It matters not whether they're inside the Mikdash or outside the Mikdash in the Azara. He had to perform them in proper sequence, and that's based on the pasuk. In Achrimos, it says, "V'hoisol lachem l'chukas olam b'chodesh hashvi b'asor lachodesh," and the concept of chukas olam indicates that every sequence in the avoda is critical. Rab Nechemia holds that the word chukah in this pasuk refers to all the avodas that are done by the Kohen Gadol when he wears his white garden, his big day lavon. It matters not whether he performs these avodas inside the heichal or outside the heichal. Rabbi Yehuda, on the other hand, disagrees, and he holds the word chukah means that there is a series of avodas that have to be implemented by the Kohen Gadol inside the Kodesh Kodashim while he's wearing the big day lavan, and those have to be done in sequence. So the Gemara now says the following. I'll leave it to Rabbi Yehuda the Yomi Torah Manasseh the big day lavan bachutz loma akva. Rabbi Yehuda, who is the dissenting view against Rabbi Nechemia, and he says that if it's bachutz, then those avodos are not essential. Is kliyamalo pligi loma akva. Certainly, the gorolos, according to Rabbi Yehuda, are not ma'akif because the gorolos are drawn outside the heichal, as we said in the Azar, the northern side of the Azar. And even though the Kohen Gadol has to wear big day lavan, is big day bad when he does the lottery, nevertheless, it's not essential. And therefore, the designation of the Se'irim would be valid simply by virtue of a verbal pronouncement of the Kohen Gadol, even without the Goros. So that even according to Rav Yanai, Aliba de Rabbi Yehuda in this particular transmission, there is no critical status to the Aliyas Hagor mitoch HaKalf. Oh, but where's the machlokes Rav Yanai and Rabbi Yochanan? Ki pligi Aliba de Rabbi Nechemia. Right, it was Rabbi Nechemia who said that when the Kohen Gadol is required to wear big day lavan, then it's a critical avodah. It has to be done in sequence, even if it's done outside the Kodesh Kodashim. We understand according to Rav Yanai why Lias Hagorol is absolutely essential. Rav Nechemia, because he's reflecting the shita of Nechemia that the avodos of the Kohen Gadol big day lavan, even when implemented outside the heichal and don't require heichal, is still considered a critical avodah that's absolutely necessary. But man b'yomer, according to Rabbi Yochanan, loma akva, he says that the aliyas hagorol mitoch hakalfi is not critical. Hani mili avoda. When did Rabbi Nechemia say that anything that the Kohen Gadol implements and he has to be wearing his big day love, no matter where it is, inside or outside, it's ma'akev? That's only if it has the status of avoda, but agrola lav avoda. Agrola does not have the status of avoda. And now the Gemara presents a second transmission, a second view. Ikad Amri. Another view is that I'll leave it to Rabbi Nechemia the Yomer Ma'akva, Kuliyamalo Plig di Ma'akva. According to Rabbi Nechemia, who says that any avodah that requires big day lavan, even if it's done outside the heichal, will be considered critical. Is Kuliyamalo Pligi di Ma'akva. Even Rabbi Yochanan would have to agree that Hatolas Gorolos, or as the Gemara calls it, Aliyas Hagorol mitoch hakalfi, is absolutely critical according to Rabbi Nechemia, because this is an avodah that is implemented by the Kohen Gadol, albeit outside the heichal, but in big day love. Keep ligi. Where's the machlokes between Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yanai? That's only I'll leave it to Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that avodah that's done inside the Kodesh Kodashim is likuva, but not outside the Kodesh Kodashim. And the overlaw ma'akva, we understand Rabbi Yochanan very simply, Rabbi Yehuda, that Rabbi Yehuda will say that hatolas hagorolos is not ma'akev, because according to Rabbi Yehuda, any avodah that's done outside the Kodesh, the Kodesh Kodshim, is non-essential. But Mandi Omer Ma'akva, now let's try to understand Rabbi Yanai according to Rabbi Yehuda, Shiny Chacha. Here in the case of Hatolas Gorolos, there's a new halacha, and that's going to require the Kohen Gadol. Why? The Tana Beikra, because we learn the pasuk. It says Asher Ola Trei Zimni. Twice the Torah says Asher Ola. And this is the parsha in Vayikra Tezayin, Pasuk Tes, it says Asher Ola, and then Pasuk Yud, it says Asher Ola. And it's redundant. And the reason why the Torah repeats Asher Ola is to tell you that Allah's Gorolos must be implemented by the Kohen Gadol, and that's critical. Meisvei, the Gemara now attacks Rabbi Yanai in the Lishna Basra that we just learned, Tika the Amri. Mitzvah lahagril, the Brisa says that it's a mitzvah to do the agrolos and designate which goat will be Lashem, which lazos. It'll be in lo higril, but in the absence of hagrola, kosher, which means again that the Kohen Gadol alone, even without the gorol, can designate each sa'ir, one Lashem, one lazos. So bishlei lach lishna the Amrid al leaving the Rabbi Yehuda kuliyam lo pligi lo ma'akva amani Rabbi Yehudi. This price that says in Lo Higril Kosher, according to Lishna Kama, would reflect the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda. And here we turn to Daf Mem. Elo Lahach Lishna Diamet Pligi, but according to the second Lishna that Rabbi Yonai and Rabbi Yochanan disagree within the Shita of Rabbi Yehuda, is Bishlei Loman Yoma Lo Makra. We understand Rabbi Yochanan, this price that says Lo Ma'akva Mani Rabbi Yehudi. And it's authored, we can attribute it to Rabbi Yehuda, according to Rabbi Yanai, who says that drawing the lots is absolutely critical, and that's true even according to Rabbi Yehuda. Nobody disagrees with that because the pasuk repeats Asher Ola is Hamani. To whom can we attribute the authorship of this brisa? More answers, Tnei mitzvah lo niyah. We have to change the girsa in the brisa. Instead of mitzvah lahagril, change it to mitzvah lehaniyah. We're not talking about the actual drawing of the lots, but rather placing the lots on the two heads of the two goats respectively. And that is certainly, according to everyone, not ma'akev. So this is where we're going to stop here in Mirza Hashem on the top of Daf Mem Amid Aleph. We wish you a great day.